This video is sponsored by Kaamos Metal Cruise 2023.
Amassing the bodies and pits as they die, sentient and filthy they rot. Flammable and sitting discarded like waste. For the fire of the handgun, you played it all and soul and valor.
Welcome to Rauta and yet another episode number 7 of Crash Course to 1990s Norwegian black metal. This time we go deep into the rather tragic trio of Norwegian black metal, well, at least for two bands of them. The theme of this trio this time is unfortunately death, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we featured two bands who have lost members tragically, way too early, way too soon, way too young. And then we have one band which, technically speaking, has been more or less dead, even if the artist within is, according to latest knowledge anyway, alive. So we'll welcome bands known as Ildjarn, Windir and Urgehal. And we'll go in more or less chronological order, starting with Ildjarn. Now, this is one of the projects that it could be just considered a solo project rather than a real band in the sense of having full lineup and going live and all that stuff. And this needs a little bit explanation why this is so important to Norwegian black metal scene. Once upon a time, before even Emperor existed, very early 1990s, there was a death metal band known as Thou Shalt Suffer. And this band is very much known, I'll just open it here, very much known as the kind of a predecessor of Emperor, featuring members such as Samoth, Isan and Ildjarn. If you take a look at the complete lineup, you will figure out that with the exception of two people who are not involved in anymore in the metal scene, at least actively, playing bands and all that stuff, the core of the band was more or less Isan, Ildjarn and Samoth, and we all know the story. Isan and Samoth went on and decided to go more symphonic ways of creating black metal, known as Emperor, one of the key bands of Norwegian black metal. However, Ildjarn, the bass player of Thou Shalt Suffer, went into very different directions and created this ultra raw, primitive black metal, which I guess could really be considered as way too raw, way too primitive for a lot of people in the black metal scene. Now, let's put it this way. If you think Dark Throne during its golden era, raw end of black metal with Panzerfaust and Under a Funeral Moon, Transylvania in Hungary, if you think that is raw, well, you might think again. Compared to Ildjarn, those albums are almost like posh. Don't get me wrong, I love those albums. They're the best what Norway ever had coming, but Ildjarn took it a little bit further. So when other bands decided to go for more melodic styles, more atmospheric, one could even say softer, Ildjarn decided to put it, let's make it super raw. Now, given that the band was founded in 1992 or 1991, and the first demos came as already as 1992 anyway, Ildjarn was quickly to just expand the music styles and doing those releases. And as far as I've gotten the knowledge, which is not here officially listed on Metal Archives, these official release dates might not give you a proper idea what was the order when this music was done and even released. But let's go with this so-called official truth, because it doesn't really matter if an album came or were made before certain others. What matters is which ones are worth listening to. Now, I consider myself an Ildjarn fan of sorts. I don't claim it to be the best out of Norway, but it's definitely one of those bands that is often overlooked and, in my opinion, not well known enough. I mean, the thing here is, even though Ildjarn did only a few albums, and even some of them is not exactly black metal, I think it's very, very vital part of the whole Norwegian scene for a couple of reasons. First of all, no other bands basically from Norway did anything similar. The second thing is the music was there already quite early on, and it is indeed very raw, pretty primitive, and just kind of a different breed of an animal. And I like it very much for that particular reason. The thing is, very many bands went, like I explained, some went more on the melodic side, some went meant for the aggression or shorts, and some just went symphonic. Ildjarn's riffs are almost like punkish, except that it's very kind of grim and even evil sounding to a certain degree. I mean, the riffs are very, very simple, and that is the hypnotic pattern even, what the band is, or artist is doing with the stuff. And with that material, there are like 3 albums: Ildjarn, Struggling in Anger, and Forest Poetry. And these came rather quick pace since the band was more or less done with the demos and all that stuff. What is also worth mentioning is this probably my favorite Ildjarn release, the Frusende Nordariket, Frozen Nordic Coast, something like that, which features some of the best Ildjarn material, and it's very raw and bare-boned black metal. Now, I would say, unless you're real into the very foundations, very bare-boned stuff in black metal, don't go for that, or Ildjarn in the beginning, to begin with. But if you are looking for something else, then you're just kind of a mainstreamish take on black metal, the one that would be awarded in, with the Spielemann Awards or whatever, I don't know, Ildjarn might be really, really rewarding experience with the side project and all. But Landscapes and later on, which is not even listed here, Hardangervidda, which I actually visited during my trip to Beyond the Gates and then back to Oslo, there are lots of ambient ambient albums actually, which are more about just the beauty of it all, instrumental and all that stuff. In a way, it's very, very soothing music, but has nothing really to do with black metal. I mean, it's closer to whatever Dungeons and Mortis, Burzum, whatever they were doing later on, their career and all, rather than just being black metal. And that kind of brings us back to the very idea that Ildjarn can be the most crude, the very raw and primitive and all that stuff, kind of a black metal. And at its most beautiful parts, it's just something different. However, like I said, the band project has only 3 different albums which are all about black metal, and that existed only for a couple of years. I mean, once again, with the official release dates and all that stuff. Ever since those albums back in the 90s, I mean, these were really ahead of their time, given that a lot of bands didn't even have a first album by 1996. Let's be honest about it, there are plenty of early 90s Norwegian black metal bands that started, releasing their first albums like 97, 98, or etc. Ildjarn had already plenty of stuff out. And maybe because never did gigs, as far as I know, never was that much part of a core scene of the Norwegian scene. Probably a lot of these albums got like overlooked and became some kind of underground cult releases. I love them, but I get it why they might be too raw and all that stuff for a lot of people. However, because the project has been buried many, many years ago, some of these later ones are just kind of pointed out that Ildjarn doesn't even exist anymore as a project. Like Ildjarn is Dead release came out in 2005, but let's be honest about a lot of this material came before that. So technically speaking, we could really say that Ildjarn was more than done already by the 90s, the end of it. Even though their official year says 2005. But this is a project that I think a lot of people should really look into, to just learn the kind of a darker and more primitive side of black metal, and also go beyond the obvious big names. The reason why Ildjarn is even included in this trio is because the theme is death indeed, and while Ildjarn is only figuratively speaking dead, I guess it kind of accounts because it's not a band that is doing albums anymore and beyond that. That being said, we move on to a different, even way more tragic band, one of the actually more tragic ones in the Norwegian scene, and the reason is right here. To begin with the members list, a couple of past members, Chiron and the core member of the band, Tronder Nefas, passed already years and years ago, and that is the reason why Urgehal isn't exactly active band, while it's kind of active, necroactive, can we call it that? Jokes aside, this is one of my favorite bands from Norway, and it's very, very welcome to the whole thing here on Rauta, because this is a band that I truly appreciate, respect for the whole career, and also is often overlooked, maybe not as much as Ildjarn, but nonetheless. Now, Urgehal started already in the very early 90s. However, it was more looked upon like a little bit latecomer because, I mean, their first album came as late as 1997, which is exactly the thing what I was saying about with the Ildjarn part and all, is that, you know, while you had this band early on going on, it took quite a few years, but that comes with a lot of things like age. For example, Nefas being a couple of years younger than me, was something like, I guess, 15 or so when the band was founded. So you probably need to have a little bit more, I don't know, maturing to do. Not because of being childish, of course, but, you know, because when you're too young, you don't even get to go to bars and stuff. So some things are just like keeping windows and doors shut until you're certain age, and then the world seems to open, which then again leads to a lot of different possibilities. With this rambling going on, I guess I could get lost in the maze of history and all, but let's focus why Urgehal is worth checking out and how does their discography look like. This, much like Ildjarn and also Windir, one other thing which is definitely in common with these bands, I went already their discography quite some time ago. And I already did the ranking video of all of these bands, so I'm not gonna recap the quality or of different albums so much, but sum it up why Urgehal is definitely worth checking out. Now, like I said, they started late 90s with their albums and all that stuff, and I would pretty much say all of the albums are worth checking out. They're all Norwegian black metal. They never went to pagan metal or atmospheric metal, melodic metal, symphonic, and all that stuff. Now, this is a list of sub-genres, which you can just like say, those bands went that way, these got softer because those reasons, these guys went in total different directions, etc., etc., etc. But Urgehal always kind of stick to it. I mean, the whole thing, the whole career, what they did with albums, about 20 years, or even less in a way, because, I mean, Nefas died a little bit earlier before this latest album, or last album, Aeons in Sodom, came out. The whole discography is just pure, raw, and grim black metal. Not maybe as raw as Ildjarn, obviously, but I mean, roughly the Dark Thronian raw, which I guess is raw enough for a lot of people out there listening to black metal to begin with. And the thing why I fell in love with Urgehal back in around 1999, I would say, roughly, was when my friend played me this massive terrestrial strike through No Colors Records, and my friend had been already in touch with the label, various bands and all that stuff, and played me this album, and I was like, man, this is really good. And I remember how the album made an impact with the cover, and of course then I started to check out the earlier material and later on some other ones. This is the cover, by the way. And well, it pretty quickly became evident that this is just my kind of stuff. When Atom Kinder came out 2001, that was like a solid album, solid continuation, maybe even better than the Massive Terrestrial Strike. And the rest of the albums pretty much just kept going on and improving the band style more or less until there was this moment when you really can improve and make much more better album. But the thing here is, Urgehal always kept going the very consistent way. Whether it comes to quality or style, Urgehal was always right there until the very tragic end and all that stuff. And because of the deaths and all that stuff, I mean, it kind of probably pushed Urgehal back to underground for quite some time. And that's why you will see these years active thing here in Metal Oxide. 2016, and the band was pretty much no more with Aeons in Sodom. But like I said, because of a couple of members being dead and all, wasn't exactly getting into the big bands game. I mean, we're talking about Emperor, Gorgoroth, etc. The kind of stuff that, you know, bands like Satyricon, not to mention Dimmu Borgir, had going on. I mean, making albums all the time and being active, going live and blah, blah, blah. But Urgehal was a little bit more underground always. I got to see them for the first time, I think in 2004, Inferno, when I visited Norway as an adult for the first time, and man, they kicked ass so much, and it just kind of strengthened my love for the band. And like I said, I've always liked the band since I found it in around 1994. 1999, not 1994. And it was such tragedy in so many ways. First of all, just losing a important liked personality in the scene, but also it was an end for an era for the band. Now, few years later, 2022, the band reactivated more or less. Got to see them last year already live as well as this year. And even though, of course, the members list isn't exactly the original one, but like a little bit of mix of newer and older members, and this doesn't even include live musicians, the band is still true to its roots and kind of paying homage to these dead members in so many ways. Still kicking ass in so many ways, but I totally understand if they never ever again do more music, because the key member of the band has been dead for so many years. Now, this being said, this is one of those bands that I think a lot of people should give a chance, even though it's not maybe as sexy in a way to listen to as some of those bigger names that everybody knows, be it Mayhem or Dark Throne or Rember or Satirical and Korgrot, you name it. Urgehal was always been, in my opinion, more on the grimmer side of things, and because of being grim and raw, I think it's more something that I like in black metal, rather than going for easy and soft and nice to listen melodic style. So Urgehal never got, in my opinion, the respect they kind of deserved, but these are sometimes the things we really can't control. And of course, this kind of music would never appeal to mainstream audience if you really think about it that. Tragic band, but a great one, so dearly missed. Well, what can I say? Which leads us to the last band, Windir. This is also a tragic one, very, very tragic one, because Valfar, the core of the band, died in 2004, and that's when the band ceased to exist. Understandably so, even though it was, I can guess only, but it must have been a really tragedy to lose a friend for the band members and all, and I think they in a way made a right call, just call it a day with that one, and that sparked another journey, if you really think about it, for bands like Vreid. Not only that, but Korskorpi and Vreid were the ones that kind of spawned from this, and even though the style changed somewhat, there is certain kind of a spirit with those two bands that kind of get going on, which I think is cool in a way, to kind of keep the homage thing going on. But during those 10 years when Windir was right there, I mean, the band was always very, very active. If you really think about it, during only 6 years of existence, 4 albums. First album in 1997 and then the last one in 2003. And who knows how many albums, how much progress, evolution, whatever there might have been, should Valfar had survived the tragic events. But this is a band that is very, very different from Urgehal and Ildjarn. So if I was talking about trio in the terms of dead and trio that I had already gone from worst to best, Windir totally stands out from these two, where Ildjarn is super raw and primitive. Urgehal is kind of a, the golden era, Dark Throne, raw end of black metal. Windir has always been more melodic, somewhat melancholic, but also kind of uplifting black metal in so many ways. And this is where it gets tricky. Now, some people just like they're kind of a Viking-inspired melodic black folk Viking, like it's listed here, and I cannot really challenge that genre definition, because while it is definitely black metal in its core, being very melodic and all, though there are definitely these certain kind of features that make Windir sound more like a folkier, more like a Viking metal thing, rather than just those raw end of black metal, grim and dark or wild and what have you. And Windir was always very consistent in quality and style, much like these other bands, never changed too much, and was definitely going into certain kind of direction, just like getting bigger, I guess, and also, defining their whole career, the style and all that stuff with its music. And I'm not the biggest fan of this melodic black metal usually. Most of them are not just my thing, but I mean, I of course respect what the guys were doing and what Valfar and the guys were, making Windir to be this kind of a historical and folky black metal, which is something that is cool. I mean, once you find your own style and you just keep figuring out how to execute it even better, how to make the music that you figured out what it would be it lyrics, be it just the style of riffs or melodies, whatever you. Windir was definitely, drilling into the very deep of Norwegian soil with their own style. But like I said, sometimes tragedies come in various forms, they come unexpected, and that's the story of Windir. Like I said, all these different bands I've done their own respective worst to best videos, so I'm not gonna even recap. More likely pointing out, if you like melodic black metal, if you don't mind a little bit of melancholia and kind of even uplifting moods with the melodic style, Windir is right there. Urgehal for the fans of raw, a little bit more grim black metal than maybe your average one, and Ildjarn for those who just worship the raw, primitive sound of it. So all very different bands, but all in a way captivating and consistent in style. The only exception being Ildjarn with the more synth-wheeled ambient kind of albums. But that being said, in my opinion, they're all worth taking a look and listen to if you haven't done it so far. And since these bands most likely will never ever again release new music, I mean, who knows in the end, but not just likely, maybe these are the kind of discographies that are relatively easy to go through because you don't have to wait for another thing to go on and all that stuff. Now, be it as it may, this is another chapter of Norwegian black metal in this series, Crash Course to the 1990s black metal from Norway. And with the next episode, we'll be looking something else, something that goes even further out of bounds, out of boundaries, versus bands which we featured today. So stay tuned for that, and the deeper we go, the more smaller bands we will be digging into. So maybe there will be bands that you even haven't heard yet. If you have, well, let's discuss it. Looking forward to your comments. Which one of these bands are your favorites and why? Which one of the albums is your favorite? If you're ready to comment, just let me know in the comments box and let's talk about these bands. Waiting for next episode. See ya and bye bye.